talk a little bit about personal development, because you've got a lot of people in your membership that are aspiring. You know, they're not head golf professionals yet or general managers yet. And to what extent can you take control over your career, almost plan it so that opportunities are coming to you versus just waiting there for the next notice that comes along?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that, I think building your brand, your personal brand, I think is significant, and not only within our organization, but also within the community. I think sometimes people don't put enough value into what impact they can play within their community to build their own brand. And I think when you do that and you take a step back and you're able to say, okay, well, what's important to me? What values are important to me? And then how do I tie myself to the community or charitable organizations or what it might be? You start to build your brand, and it sounds funny, but it's so true. It's building your brand and then really focusing on networking and the relationships. We've all had I spoke about 4 people that were very instrumental in my development, and there's probably another 20 that I'm not mentioning. And making sure that, when those unique opportunities come where you meet those very interesting people, you take the time to cherish that and make sure that, you take a step back and say, well, I want to try to make sure I get as much out of that relationship as I can to understand, what they do if they're a professional, running a large organization or whoever it is. But, really making sure that you really assess, kind of what other people do around you and look to see, okay, well, how does that relate to what I do, and how can I make myself better by,
and it's very subtle, right?
It is.
Because I get pushed back again, when you use the word networking, you mean I have to go out and sell.
No, it's not about that at all. It's about, trusting the community or the people you're dealing with, that you're there for them, and you're building, the osmosis of that is just building your network. So, but, I think that's a big piece.
Yep. Bob?
Yeah, I, at a young age, I had a great, one of my first interviews for an assistant pro job, and the pro asked me, okay, you're applying for this job, but where do you see yourself in 10 or 15 years? And, I said, I sat back in the chair and said, well, that's a great question. What do I want to do? Do I have a career path? Did I have a career path at that time? And I said, well, okay, well, in 10 years, I want to be a head pro. And he said, okay, well, how are you going to do that? And I said to myself, I don't know. I was quite young, and he said, well, okay, well, I'm going to lead you down the path to become a head pro. And, you have to do this, 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 and this. And, part of it, obviously, is networking, but a lot of it is, making sure you're working at the right type of clubs that are going to help lead you down the way. When I became a head pro, now I said to myself, okay, well, I've achieved this, so what's my next goal or my next step? And, is that a 5-year plan, 10-year, 15-year plan? How long do I want to be in this position for, and what do I want to see in the future? So, you might not know what the end game is going to be, but it's knowing potentially what steps you need to go and what you need to learn to get there. And for me, still being, fairly young and early in my career,
Keep going.
he
thinks he's so young.
It's still all about growing. It's still about growing. It's about, what Brad said about networking. It's making sure the right people know who you are. And, a lot of times doors will open up that you don't even realize that you're even thinking about this potential career path or whatnot or opportunity. I want to, continue to learn as much as I can and get my name out there to as many people as I can, because that's how I got to where I am right now. I think there's so many different avenues you can take, whether staying as a head pro or moving up to being a general manager. A lot of doors can open just by the fact of how many people you might know, and it's not about selling yourself right away, but it's just about letting people know who you are and then they get to know you, they get to know your work ethic, and then they say, well, you know what, maybe Tyler would be the best fit for this position down the line or whatnot.
Right.
And that's kind of how I've worked it, and that's kind of how what's worked out.
I think it's also, it has to be a day-to-day occurrence. I get excuses, well, that's great, Jim, but I can't do that in a busy season. Well,
Yeah,
there's no season when it comes to your life.
No.
Getting ahead, so.
and that's the thing, I think we do it almost subconsciously. Like, I
Yeah.
think just our job is, we're so, we're chatting amongst ourselves on the phone or email. We're talking to members. We're putting our name out there so much that we don't even realize we do it sometimes. We're great storytellers. Part of being a head pro is having that first tee chat with so many people, and you're really selling yourself that way. Whether it's selling or just exposing yourself, I guess, in a sense.
Right.
That's a good point. I think you get out of bed in the morning, so you want to network today. I think in the positions that we're in, you're just fortunate enough to be around, very good people that, you kind of, it just happens.
Yeah.
So.
And getting to that stage of confidence does take a bit of work. I mean, I always say to people about, if you're thinking about networking, don't do a cold call right off the bat. Think about somebody that you know and why you want to get together with them to touch base, because you can afford to mess it up a little bit, because if you're a good friend, they'll say, I know where you're coming from. Yeah.
Well, the PGA show is coming up, and we're not too far away from that. And a big part of going to the PGA show is some professional development, a little bit of buying, some education. But probably one thing that happens that many don't even necessarily think about or put value on is the networking, the people you meet or see or get a chance to touch base with again. And I have some colleagues from across the country or that I know in the States. I only get to see them once a year, and that's the time, and you take advantage of it and roll that on top of it. But when it comes to career goals or any type of goal, you need to have that goal in mind.
Yep.
How you get there can change. The goal can't necessarily change overall what you want to do, but the direction or the means of you getting there, there's many different paths for you to be able to get there. And once you do achieve that goal per se, I hope there's another goal in mind for your next step. And it's just like day to day. I mean, I want, from my experience or my members' experience, I want tomorrow to be better than what today is, and you find a way to get there. Have a plan, but that plan is not going to work the way you want it to, because things can change. You meet other people, other opportunities present themselves, something changed in your life, who knows what. The benefit I have from my standpoint of my operation, my shop, my team, and my PGA professionals especially, is that as part of their year-end performance review I have with them, we talk about their plan, and we did this with Tyler. What do you want to do next year at our facility? What kind of responsibility do you want to take on? What would you like to do in 5 years, and what do you want to do in 10 years? And not only does that help that individual, that helps me from a team perspective to have a plan in place of how our operation is going to move and how maybe our team members are going to evolve through and advance through, and it really helps everyone along that process. So again, having those goals is very, very important. Having a plan in place is almost as important, but be prepared for that plan to change.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think that the other component of that too is how you can help them, or how we can help them get to their plan, right? So, if they said, well, in 5 years from now I want to be wherever, how do we put the pieces in place or the motion in place to get them there? And I think people really value that, and just, our association for the apprentices that are coming into the program, and I think that's where, I think that's the biggest thing that we can help with is to assist them with that and to ask those tough questions and to try to steer them or guide them as best you can.
Someone's going to be way more successful with others helping or giving comments or feedback or supporting it. You can't do it all on your own.
And not every move is going to be vertical.
No, not at all.
There are horizontal moves. You could be an associate a couple of times, for example, right? Yeah.
The role I took at Hamilton, when you looked at it on paper, it was a step back, but what an opportunity. I mean, I was now back to a fourth assistant as opposed to being the first associate where I was the previous job. I was spending time in the back shop and managing that team and the caddy master per se, and someone would look at that on paper and say, why would you ever take that job knowing what you're doing the previous season? But sometimes you got to take a step back to make 2 steps forward later on in life.
Right. You've all been through interview processes, and sometimes you probably wonder, why the heck did I get the job? How did I get through that interview with the committee and so on? But when you think about it, what can you remember about, well, what maybe stood out? What kind of feedback that maybe you got that said, the reason we think you're the person for this is because?
Well, from my experience, I think a lot of my goals were in line with the club's goals. My background through the various clubs I was at really sparked an interest during the interview process with what they were looking for in a pro. Merchandising history, event organization, membership interactions, working with committees, having that scope and that experience allowed the interviewers to be confident or comfortable with me that I did have that experience to go forth to become their head pro. So I think that was, part of the equation.
And you told stories.
And you definitely tell stories. Well, I just mentioned those things, but each time you mention something, whether it's running an event, you tell a story, you get them in your shoes and what you went through and how you achieved, running, say, a men's 2-day or a PGA of Canada event at your club. You get them. See, what I always find works best is if they can visualize what you're talking about and talk about your past experience, then they know that, okay, well, this person just isn't saying it, he's lived it, he's gone through it, and we can picture this person at our club achieving the same thing, right? So, yeah.
I think just briefly about what Brad said earlier in regards to dealing with counselors on a board. You're the expert. You were the expert. Relay that to the individuals and let them know you are the expert. In order to do that, you have to be very specific and tell stories about what you've done and what you've achieved and how you've done it. But I think you need to be very specific to let them know and get that through them that you're the expert. And I talk a little bit about this with some of my staff again from a resume building standpoint. Don't be broad. Be very specific. To say that you taught at a golf club last year doesn't mean anything to somebody.
Exactly.
Tell them the golf club you taught at. Tell them how many lessons you taught. Tell them the type of students you taught. Tell them the changes you made in people's golf swings. Tell them how much money you made off teaching that year. Be very specific and expand on your story and share more details as opposed to being just very, very broad.
Yeah, I would agree with those comments, and I think being prepared is critical too. And when you're telling those stories, if you can, try to get them to believe that they're living those stories with you. I think, be very specific, like you said, to the value that you can bring to the club, and be very confident you are the expert, and you're sitting in front of people who are looking to you to be the expert. And when you walk in the room, you should deliver the message that you are the expert. So, and that's a challenge. I remember the first time I went through the process. First time I was interviewed at the city of Waterloo. I've got the mayor and the CEO Tom Stocky and a few other people that are in the city. And here I am, I forget what I was at the time, maybe 24-year-old young man walking in, and never been through an interview process. And these people are all very successful people, but once you got talking to them and you realize, hey, I am the golf expert in the room here. It kind of changes the way that you view the setting in the room. So, I think it's critical to make sure that you have that confidence in yourself that you are the expert and you're prepared and you can tell a good story and they can see you at their club.
Well, being on the sort of in the middle of a lot of these processes, you've hit on some great points. Yeah, some of the other things that I see too are that, let's say it's associate going to head professional. Yes, it's a promotion, but at that stage, the committee is expecting you to act like a head professional, as opposed to, gee, I'm really hoping to get this job. They want to see you in action, so you've got to get stories that isn't just an apprenticeship going into this. I could do this job. And the other thing is, I think folks have to do more homework. I mean, right from the get-go, I mean, we'll get applications come in when they got the wrong name of the club on the letter. Well, what does that say, you know? And I did this in a workshop once where I put up the notice for a club, and I said to the group, I said, what stands out here? Because I think there's some clues here about what this club is saying about itself. You know, maybe it's a players club or it's a family club. And are you that person, and how are you going to respond to that, you know, on a covering letter or whatever? Oh, it's just take the time. Well, this has been great, gentlemen. I really enjoyed this, and I hope the members out there have as well. Any closing statements you'd like to make?
Well, I'd just like to ask you, Jim, I mean, you've been through the process with, you know, with a number of professionals probably across the country, and you know, we gave our advice. I'd like to hear from you. What advice would you give them?
Right.
It's
On the table.
yeah.
Well, first of all, I'd be hopeful. I think when I've done some workshops with some of the regions, I see a lot of downcast faces. You know, it's going to take a long time, you can't make as much money and all that kind of thing. And look, it's still a gainful profession to be in. Are we going through a lot of change? Sure. And, you know, we've been talking for a decade now, at least, about, you know, club industry's going down or whatever. It's still active. And so I think there's a lot of hope. But I'd like to see your membership take a little more pride, I think, in what they do. Because the skills required to be a golf professional are very similar to any other kind of general management P&L role. It's about people, it's about customer service, it's about priority setting, and fiscal responsibility, all those kinds of things. You guys are in the happiness business. You know, when I come out from my busy day, it's, hey, let's go out there and have fun. And you contribute to it a lot. So, no, I think your members should feel encouraged. It's not just about being a head professional either, as you've seen Brad, you know, going into general management. We're seeing more of that because whether it's on the golf superintendent side or on the hospitality side, general management side, or pro, there's a big population of people coming up. And we know there's only so many jobs, but people are looking for the talent. And if you are feeling you're doing all the right things and you're feeling a little shut down in one career path, there are options. And I've seen that with people who desperately want to be head golf professionals, and yet I saw how great they were at teaching. And we had some great examples of that in this country, where those people developed a specialized career and have done very well at it, and their passion came through. So, thank you again.
Great. Thank you. Thank you.